Thank you, Siba. Okay, a really brief introduction so that when I tell you a couple of career-defining moments, it means a little more. I've always been a prolific artist. I drew and painted all the time as a child. I won my first art competition when I was 11 years old, the Butlins Art Competition. I did my O-level a year early because my tutor thought I was a good artist and I was moving school and he wanted me to do my O-level under him. Then I did my A-level 2 years early. But when I left school, I didn't see a career in art. The career guidance at that time wasn't very good, so I didn't pursue drawing and painting. The very last thing I did as a child was a mural on my wall, on my bedroom wall. I did a full-size mural that was 2.2 meter high, sort of 4 or 5 meters wide, and then I stopped. And I didn't think I would ever go back to art, but my middle brother, always used to moan at me saying, "Richard, you should paint, you love painting, why aren't you painting?" And I was too busy, I was doing other things. I was having fun as a young guy, playing squash and windsurfing and various things. Right, so when I finished college, I was working for an engineering company that manufactured power generation equipment. And I really loved my job, I was so happy. And I had a relationship with my first serious girlfriend, and she suddenly told me I thought I was happy. She suddenly told me that she was going to go and study nursing, and she was going to go and work away from home. And I was distraught. I didn't know what to do because we were so close. And I thought, how am I going to fill the time? What am I going to do? I'll never see her, and various things. A job appeared on the notice board in the company I was working for. They wanted a resident engineer, Baghdad. They didn't say much about it for obvious reasons that I'll go into later, but I saw this and I saw resident engineer, Baghdad. That sounds good. I've always wanted to travel and I'd love to go to India. So I applied for the position. I submitted a letter and said that I would be interested in knowing more. And when I went for the job, they asked me, "Why do you want to go to Iraq?" And I said, "What? Iraq? Baghdad, Iraq?" And I realized at the interview that Baghdad isn't in India. So I said, "Oh, well, I just want to travel." I had no idea about Iraq, no idea at all. And they said, "Are you concerned that it's a war zone?" War zone? And I found out then that Iraq was at war with Iran. And I said, "Well, if it's safe, if I'm okay, it's fine." And they said, "Oh, it's okay in Baghdad, it's fine. It's a very cosmopolitan life. The Iraqi people are really friendly." And then they told me why there was a vacancy. The person that I would be replacing had been stabbed in a back street by a soldier in an altercation, and he was brought back on a hospital plane. And I thought, this isn't going quite how I expected, so yeah, but he's okay now, everything's fine. So I thought, well, I can give it a try, it sounds okay, I still want to travel, I'll have a go. I agreed that I would do a month in Baghdad. And my first ever flight in my life was to Baghdad. And I absolutely hated it beyond belief. I threw up, I didn't like the food, the heat was unreal. I suddenly went from the UK to July in Baghdad. It was over 50 degrees in the shade. I couldn't touch anything, everything burnt me. It was really difficult. It was a huge cultural shock. And for the first 3 or 4 days, I thought, there's no way on earth I'm going to last. I just want to leave. But then I slowly got used to it. I got used to the people and the place. I was free. I used to travel around and meet customers, discuss their requirements, provide technical sales support, commission equipment. Everything that landed in Iraq, I had to commission it. Within 2 years, I had itchy feet and I left the company. I was poached by a company in Saudi Arabia, and I went to work in Saudi Arabia. And I suddenly found myself with 20 to 25 hours a week on my hands when I had to stop playing squash. My knees were wearing out and I withdrew from my favourite competition, and suddenly I had time on my hands, and my brother had another go at me and said, "Richard, you should paint." So I went out to the local store and I bought a basic art set, and I thought, I'll just paint and have some fun. No pressure, no nothing. And that went on for about a year, trying to find something that really interested me. And all of a sudden somebody bought one of my paintings, and I literally almost wet myself. I didn't know what to do. Somebody paid £175 for something I'd created as a hobby, for something to do, to pass the time on. I was so excited, and I remember that so much, and I thought, well, maybe I could earn a small amount. Maybe I could find a little niche that suits my style, that I'm good at, and people will like it. I thought, I set myself a career goal. I set myself that within a year I wanted to sell a painting for £500, and several other minor things. I wanted to have a website, I wanted to approach galleries, but most importantly I wanted to sell a painting for £500, first career goal, and I sold one for over £500. Then for my next year I wanted to have gallery representation, and I wanted to sell a painting for over £1,000, which I did. And then I wanted to sell a painting for over £2,000, and I wanted to be represented by 3 galleries, and I wanted to have my first exhibition, which I did. It was taking me too long to create paintings. It was taking me typically between 60 and 80 hours painting time. I thought something has to change, so I started experimenting with knives, and my first knife paintings were a little unusual. They were very loose. The people that I was painting looked like they had leprosy, but I persevered. I experimented, I tried different techniques, and eventually, within a couple of years, I could paint with the same level of detail, the same level of accuracy, but much, much quicker. But then I was approached by a company in Taiwan that wanted to exhibit my artwork, and I thought it was a scam. So I told them that I would only send my artwork there if they bought it. And surprisingly, they bought half a dozen paintings. And they also said that we'll provide a hotel for you. We'd like you to come and stay here. We'll provide the hotel. So I sent around 6 paintings there, and they had a preview exhibition and they featured my artwork. And they sold, I think, 3 or 4 of them really quickly, and sent me a message saying, we need some more paintings quick before the main exhibition. And I sold several again in the main exhibition. And they said, we'd like you to come next year and participate again. And the artwork that sold were dancers. I'd painted 1 or 2 dancers, but they were really excited by my dance artwork. They'd selected all dancers and they sold well. So they said, could you paint some more for the exhibition next year? Which I did. And since then, I've exhibited with them around 7 times. On one of the exhibitions, everything sold on the opening day. So I think I sent 5 or 6. That's all I had, and they all sold. And that was a defining moment. I've always painted people. I love painting people, and it's so interesting because everyone is so different. People may look alike, but when you paint them, you see small characteristics of facial expressions. And with my paintings, I like it to be fairly realistic. I try to be a little loose on occasion, but my paintings are realism. And the first dancer that I painted by accident, I thought everything about a dancer is right. The whole poise, the position of the hands, the position of the head, the facial expression, the look, the feet, the legs, everything has to be just right And I've painted horses, I've painted people, I've painted dancers, I've painted various forms of dance. But there's a common theme. It's not dancers, it's not people. I've painted horses. It's passion. So I want to capture in anything that I paint passion. With the horses, with the celebration scenes, it's dramatic, it's atmospheric, there's passion in it. So that's the common theme of my artwork.